But the Palestinians are closing doors as well, aren't they? Well, closing doors with the Americans.
Well, nobody benefits more from opening doors with the Americans than Palestinians, and nobody loses more in closing doors than Palestinians.
Well, that's why President Abbas told Donald Trump, "Damn your money and may your house be destroyed."
No, that's President Abbas and myself met with President Trump and his team in 2017 37 times.
The fact remains, you can't get on with this administration. You're not going to work it. You said they're not honest brokers. You've said that. You've accused them of not being honest brokers. Over the years, you've worked with many US administrations who were much better disposed towards you, and you couldn't do a deal with them either. So you keep on waiting for someone better to come into the White House?
Well, you know, you can say this, and you can say that as Palestinians, I have recognized the state of Israel's right to exist and live in peace and security next to the state of Palestine on the 67 lines.
Asking you what your next move is, Saeb Arekat.
My next
You're
move,
not talking to anybody. You say there's no point talking to anybody.
No, I'm not saying I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the Europeans, I'm talking to the Russians. Look, we went as far...
And you can't get a deal without the Americans.
No, look,
and you know that.
Where are the Americans?
You know, someday you will have to sit down with them. Someday.
I did not stop meeting with them by twisting my arm, by blackmailing me, by cutting $844 million aid to me, including hospitals in East Jerusalem, the only cancer center, eye center, the French hospital, by cutting $230 million of these poor Palestinians and $304 million from United Nations relief and work agencies. They think it's a real estate deal to sell Jerusalem? Of course not.
If that were true, Saeb Arekat, why don't you end your factional divisions, because they are killing your chance of peace?
I agree with you. This is on me.
Yeah, it's on you.
I agree with you.
And you don't do it. Year after year after year, the same factional divisions with Hamas, with the other Palestinian factions. You can't do it. You can't put aside your factional interests for the sake of the Palestinian people.
You know, we have 26 Palestinian political parties, and our only request...
Is that an excuse?
Look, Hamas is a Palestinian political party. I'm not trying to exclude them. All I'm telling them, Tim, we differ. But once we differ, it's ballots and not bullets. And they have to understand that I cannot have a Palestinian state without having one authority, one gun, and the rule of law.
Yes, everybody tells you that, but
nobody tells me this is for me.
Year you fail to do it.
No, I'm not failing to do it. They have taken over Gaza by arms, a coup d'etat.
The latest polling in September, Palestinian polling, 62% want your president to resign. 67% are dissatisfied with the performance of the Palestinian Authority. 3/4 view conditions today as worse than before the Oslo Agreement.
They are.
So what have you achieved for your people? What have you achieved for your people?
If my president wants to go to Amman, he seeks a permission from the Israeli commander.
You don't answer. What have you achieved?
We're under occupation.
Saeb Arekat, what have you achieved?
Look what we achieved.
What?
Look at the World Bank.
Worse conditions.
No. Look at the World Bank report and the International Monetary Fund reports, 2014, 15, 16, 17. We have done, we're a very young authority. We're crawling, 20 years old. We have done in these 20 years more than any country in the third world did in 63 years. And President Abbas did not come to be the president by a tank or by heredity. He came through elections. He won by 61% of the votes. I won by 57% of the votes, not 99%. That's the fact. And now President Abbas,
13 years into a 4-year term.
He said he wants to go to elections, and he declared he's not going to run.
Well, when are you having elections?
When we
you
have,
keep saying.
No, if we have elections without Gaza, what will you say to them? We're separating. You think we can have a state without Gaza?
Why do you keep calling for elections? You promised elections this year.
I need elections to unify my people.
You personally promised elections this year.
That's what I
say you can't have elections until you're unified. Whatever strategy you thought you were employing to make things better for your people, it's not working, is it? And in Gaza, you've actually been helping to cause hardship. You asked Israel to cut electricity to Gaza.
That's not true.
Because of a row with Hamas over payments.
That's not true.
You didn't ask them?
That's not true.
You did.
Look, I have.
You did.
No, I have an overloaded wagon of complexities.
Your action has put hospital operations at risk in Gaza, water pumps, the sewage system, huge health
actions?
risk. You squeeze them.
Well, how can I squeeze them? I'm paying $96 million, half of my budget, 50%. What can I do? I pay the electricity for Israel, the water for Israel, and then they collect, Hamas collects, and they don't put it back in the finance ministry.
And when people protested in the streets in June about your action, you arrested dozens of them and your security forces beat them up in custody. And you tell me how democratic you are.
Well, look, if you want me to be perfect, I'm not perfect.
This is very far from being perfect, isn't it? This is government policy. You beat them up consistently.
You mentioned one demonstration. It's true. Some people were beaten up. That's right. But then an investigation committee was formed the day after by President Abbas. An ongoing investigation had went. But how many demonstrations do I have on a daily basis in the West Bank? Against Abu Mazen, against myself? How many? Every single day.
It's not excuses. What about the corruption? The massive corruption in the Palestinian Authority? Well, the latest polling in September shows that more than 80% believe that there is widespread corruption in the Palestinian Authority. They cite nepotism, bribery, abuse of public funds, and lack of transparency. You know, your own independent watchdog, Amman, the Coalition for Accountability and Integrity, has issued yet another blistering report about you for the year 2017, saying that there is a lack of transparency. It said the continued dysfunction of the Palestinian Legislative Council allows the government to escape accountability.
Number one, we have the anti-corruption.
And you asked me what corruption is in Palestinian territories.
Trying to answer. Do we have corruption? Yes. Last year, 4 Palestinian ministers were in front of the court of corruption. I think it's the only time in history of Arab and Islamic countries.
What about the case of Palestinian Airlines? This was singled out by Amman. It said the Treasury last year continued payment of hundreds of salaries to employees in Palestinian Airlines. There is, of course, no Palestinian Airlines. Not registered in accordance with the law. There is no center of responsibility. How do you explain these hundreds of salaries when you have an airline that has flown, what, 2 years out of the last 13?
Yes, our 4 planes were destroyed by the Israelis, and we have people who were working there.
Hundreds of salaries.
Not hundreds.
It's a big fraud, Saeb Arekat,
just a second.
isn't it?
Just a second. We have
Let's get on to the real problem.
Let's get to the real problem, exactly.
Which is the human rights abuses. Human Rights Watch, which you've dealt with for many years, has just produced its latest report, compiled over 2 years, which features credible reports of shocking human rights abuses by your security services. Your abuses
How many cases the human rights specified?
They base their investigation on 147 interviews, as you know well.
In 2 years, yeah.
As you know well.
Yes.
Shocking abuse.
Yes.
They say that there are violations of international humanitarian law and contravene the legal obligations that you took when you signed up to human rights treaties over the last 5 years. Torture, extensively documented, may amount to a crime against humanity. And you're telling me you're a democratic state.
We are.
And you allow